Welcome to a Christmas edition of the Ball at All Costs podcast. And we have a special guest in the building, Mr. Tom Wright. And this one's an academy series, also a coaching series, also a talent ID series. Listen, we're giving you 3-for-1 as it's Christmas time. And truth be told, when you hear this, it will be probably a week into the new year or two. As we've told you before, we are 2 weeks ahead. But as we record, it is now a few days after Christmas. So we have to be real to ourselves. It is a Christmas episode because we are recording at Christmas. So Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to one and all. I'm going to do my check-ins and I'm going to say hello to Tom. So Tom, hello, how are you doing? Welcome. And how's your Christmas been?
Andrew, thank you. Yeah, my Christmas has been, one, amazing. Two, different. It's a lot slower now. The football's sort of calmed down a bit. I was saying to OC earlier, it's just strange not having so much football going on. But it's been a time to chill. I've eaten a lot and just, been able to rest a lot more. But all good this end. Thank you for checking in. And yeah, I hope everything's been good your end.
Good, thank you. Yeah, enjoy the break because all too well we will be 6 days a week, if not more, as of January the 2nd or 5th, depending on when she goes back.
You're making me tired just thinking about that.
Yeah, we start on Friday, so all good. OC, my brother, Merry Christmas. I haven't spoken to you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good. Christmas was nice. Traveling up and down the country to Norfolk and back a few times. To the in-laws, which is good. Definitely a few pounds heavier. I felt it, like the scale say so.
A few pounds heavier and a few pounds lighter, the conundrum.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And just like Tom said, the break from football's been quite nice, My boy's been a bit ill anyway, so I was planning to take him out. So even if it's not sessions, just pop out of him, but he's been ill. So first time today we got out was today, which was nice. Just saying to Tom that we actually stayed indoors Saturday and Sunday, both days. Okay, and it's crazy. It just felt nice. So listen, we're taking full value in the break, and he's back tomorrow. Is it Ballers Cup tomorrow? I believe. So
was that a Ballers Link Up thing?
Yeah, it's a Ballers Cup, so it's based in the Ricky Stadium. A few Chelsea.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
He's going to have his first run out tomorrow, and dust the cobwebs off, shall we say?
Yeah, I hear you. Luckily, they don't have to worry about any extra pounds. They probably haven't put on any because of their metabolism and their age. So all good. All good for them. Yeah, similar. Did got to be careful what I say now these days. The boy has had rest. He has had some rest, but we've kept him ticking over a couple of strength and conditioning sessions, and he's touched the ball a couple of times. Well, once, and probably tomorrow. Actually, Ade, where are you? I need you. I'm going to call you after the show. We'll probably link up and do a little session. So, and that'll be it until he goes back. And I spent a lot of time with the family, which has been good. Definitely a few pounds heavier and loads of pounds lighter. So I guess that's what it's all about. It's not for us, really. It's for the rest of the family. But I've got some decent presents, I must admit. So all good, my end. And we'll catch up with Deji when he comes through, because the bundler, a.k.a. Degenio, a.k.a. Van Helsing, a.k.a. Deji Spurs, a.k.a. Can a Man Have Any More Nicknames, will be joining us shortly. But until he does, I'm going to urge all of our listeners, before I urge all of our listeners, I'm going to say, apologies. It usually gets about 5 minutes in before we start talking about the subject at hand. So, guys, you know the routine by now. If you don't want to hear the check-ins, which are important, I might add, skip to about 5 minutes and we'll start talking the stuff you want to hear about. But before we do that, you know the routine by now. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment and hit that notification button. I'm not going to point because I still don't know where they are. And if you're listening on the audio feed, please leave a like and a review. Thank you very much. Our new episode has dropped today. And again, it's fantastic. White Girl, absolutely great listen, great points. And I'm sure this episode is going to be equally as fantastic. I'm equally as excited about this show as I have been you. So, new year, new look. You should be able to see us clearer. We've got new cameras and stuff. In case you didn't know, not just a glow. We look better, I hope, or worse. But either way, we're going to crack on. Tom, my friend, talk us through your journey into football from a young age. What inspired you? Where you got to? And then tell us about how you got into the position of coach and talent ID scout.
Yes. So for me, it's the typical story. You know, I think I got into grassroots when I was probably around 8 or 9 years old. One of those things where, you know, that time, I mean, I'm 42 now. So back then, it was just, for me, it was one of those things my friends were doing. So, and I'd always liked sport. Don't get me wrong. Football was the most accessible one. I mean, we were out, you know, when we were kids playing in garages and playing Kirby and stuff like that. So stepping into grassroots football was just sort of the next thing to do. I only trained once a week. Again, it was very obviously a different time. I only trained once a week, played once a week. I wasn't bad, but I don't think I was ever at that level where I could sort of push on. And, you know, I never played sort of semi-pro or anything like that. I played adult football, but sort of across Saturday and Sunday. Majority of that would have been Sunday league. So your typical kind of your pub sort of football. When I was, 18 and 16, 17 and above. I did, when I was younger, you know, I was always had, you know, a little bit of pace, quite tricky. But I just didn't have that I guess the physicality and that aggression to the game to push on anymore. So I played as an adult, just as some pub football. Probably dipped out about the time I probably discovered pubs and stuff like that. So I think I was 18, 19. And that's what my football journey kind of ended then. I didn't fancy getting up hungover on a Sunday anymore to play football.
Yeah.
So I came out then, but because I've always loved the game, and I've always naturally enjoyed football in particular, but a range of sports. As I got older, I thought, well, if I can't play, why can't I you know, I can kind of help the next generation and sort of coach. So I did my level 1. Funnily enough, I did that in Essex, so down your way. Level 2 just naturally followed after that. So I did that again. I think that was with the down in Essex as well. I actually started coaching before I had kids, so before my two, because certainly I think it was the level 2, you had to be a part of a club anyway. Before my kids, I started in boys football, which was great. I enjoyed it. Just a local team here in Hemel, under 7s or 8s, which gave me a really good insight to kind of how to work with that first level of players. You know, good introduction into grassroots football. I did my level 1 and level 2 at that club, and then, you know, by the time my daughter was born, that's when I moved. I actually came out of coaching, and I wasn't coaching for a number of years. So I'd had got my level 1 and my level 2. Yeah, I'd come out of coaching. My daughter was born, and that's the reason why I came out. And then as soon as she turned, I think, 18 months. And I know I've heard this on this pod quite a bit, the little kickers. We went straight to little kickers. I know there's a bit of a theme, little kickers theme in some of the pods here. But we went there. And I think, you know, I didn't sit there and think at that age, you know, you don't sit there and think, oh, wow, like she's class, or, you know, this or that. She enjoyed it and she listened. And she was doing reasonably well, more so than some in her group. So I was like, okay, you know, I love football. Maybe she's enjoying it, and there is maybe a bit of talent there. I mean, she's doing the basics all right. But then COVID hit. So there wasn't really much we could do. after that.
Sorry, can I stop you there? Sorry,
Yeah.
To stop you mid-flow. So, welcome, Degenio. Yeah, it is Degenio. I don't know how we spell that, do we? We don't know. Yeah, we're talking about
how to spell Degenio?
Yeah, just yeah.
Yeah,
just
it's DEJINHO.
Okay, I'm sure it's different last week, but it's okay.
Yeah,
changes every week.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Tom's, no worries, Dej. So the question I'm going to ask, just before you talk about the subject we don't really like to talk about, but it happens, so we have to. When you took your daughter to Little Kickers, how did you sell that to your wife? Was that a case of, I'm doing daddy-daughter time, I'm just taking her somewhere, I really want to take a Little Kickers? Was there a debate? Was your wife happy? How did that work?
So luckily, I mean, I say luckily for me, she's very sporty anyway. So she got her degree in sport. She played football like when she was growing up. Obviously the game then was nothing like it is now, you know, she'll say herself, but she was involved in like the Watford setup. I think through, pretty sure she had something to do with England schoolgirls as well, had a trial or something like that. So she's always had her interest in football, rugby as well. She played rugby to quite a high level. So the sport there was no need to kind of sort of twist her arm. It was either going to be, it probably would have been rugby or football. Luckily she took to football. But yeah, she was just happy that she, you know, we were going out and she was engaging in some form of activity and learning. And yeah, so we were just happy that she took to it.
Okay, cool. So she's the better footballer in the household. You can't claim that title. So sorry, you mentioned COVID.
Yes. Yeah. So, and that's when the Little Kickers journey kind of come to an end. She'd done that for a while though. It was a couple of years, I think. No, a few years actually. And then yeah, COVID hit. Couldn't really get up to anything. And then when she turned 5, I think she was 5, I took her to a local, I don't know if you've heard of the FA Weetabix Wildcats. Yeah, so it's introduction for girls session. So an introduction to football for girls. And they go from, I think it's 5 to 9 or something like that. So I took her down there. We went for one session. And again, she really enjoyed it and she did really well. And then probably, as you guys know, with grassroots football, as soon as a session or a club that run a session here that you've got a coaching badge, they get their claws in. So I think after her second session there, I was then the lead of the Wildcat sessions for the subsequent ones for years, you know, the next few years. But that was her first introduction. So that was really the basics of football at the Wildcat sessions. So it was really just looking around things like your ABC, so you know, your agility, balance, coordination, and then just the basics of control, dribbling, and stuff like that. Think really entry-level introduction session, and that's what Wildcats is, and that's where her journey started.
Brilliant. And like you said, that is the way it goes. Sometimes you don't even need a coaching badge. You just need to ask a question or two, or even be there. Be the one not walking away when they're looking for somebody to help out, and you get roped in. Sounds like it worked out for you. So
yes,
from there, what happened with your daughter's journey?
So from there, I started running the Wildcat sessions after, honestly, I think it was the second session, and the chap got me in. So I started running those sessions. I thought, for me, because I'm a coach and I'm going to be there anyway, I thought, okay, brilliant, I'll do that. And then in a dad and coach way, it kind of enabled me to control what I put on the sessions and control how much I push Lila as well as the others. But I had that specific route to Lila to kind of control her intensity, control the session of what she's doing, and just have that little bit of control over her football development, and instead of having it in someone else's hands, which I don't mind doing. So I did that for, I think, a year or so. And then obviously the next step for that was to start a under 8 football team. So within that club, so I was able to take obviously Lila with me and pick, I think it was 9 other girls for them to then go and play league football, which we did. And that was her first introduction into a team. So that would be her first introduction into a specific team training session and then a match day as well, because the Wildcats was only 1 hour on a Saturday. So yeah, that enabled me to create my own team with my daughter in it and then take them on for that season.
And did you still do the Wildcats on a Saturday?
No, I had to hand that over because the girls' football league matches were on the Saturday as well. So
Okay.
yeah, it didn't quite work because I could have a kickoff and the same time that a Wildcat session was running. So it just made sense for me to hand it over. And then the thing, you know, I love about grassroots is there is always a dad ready there to kind of, or a mum to step in and take over. So I was able to hand over to someone else. He was then actually going to do his level 1 and so on. So it was left in good hands. And then I could go on and lead that first team.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm going to open the floor up in a second. I just want to find out, because we've had a fellow academy dad, should I say, on of women's girls football. You've heard the name Chris Rowler and his daughter. Obviously, if we have one North London team on, we've got to have the other North London team on. It's only fair. So that's why you're on, Tom, to balance out the numbers. No, all joking aside. So I think he mentioned his daughter's journey into football slightly different. So I'm really intrigued. At the age of under 8, what did that league football system look like in terms of how many fixtures, how many teams, what was the level like, and what was the level like in your team as well as the league?
Yeah, so unfortunately where we are, it was in the Hearts Girls League, under 8s. So at that age, 1, there's not many teams. I think sometimes we could have had a full season of playing the same 4 or 5 teams because the numbers just weren't there at that age group. Unfortunately, 5-a-side girls football under 8s is hard, 1, to find the numbers, and 2, certainly to find the level. So you could imagine even at under, you know, I've seen under 8s boys level, the under 8s girls level wouldn't have been close to that, unfortunately. But it was good to get that experience within a team. It's good to get that experience for them to actually play a match. I know it's supposed to be non-competitive, but I mean, you can tell some of these girls it's non-competitive, but even at that age, they wanted to win and they're asking the score and stuff like that. So it was good to kind of get that competitive edge in as well, because you do need to learn in life to win and lose. But it was a struggle the first, just purely because of the especially the lack of numbers of teams. It was tough. Yeah.
And what would you say the level of your team was in comparison to kind of the other teams? And what would you put that down to?
I think that first season we probably had one of the better teams.
Yeah.
And I put that down to probably more, we were lucky we had a few players that were more physical. Now, if you think physicality has an advantage in boys football, physicality from a girl in girls football at that age group is massive.
Yeah.
Because most of the girls at that age, they'll shy away from those tackles. They haven't got that aggression. They haven't got that agility. I mean, we had some of our girls were playing multi-sports as well.
Yeah.
One in particular was very good at tennis. Another one was athletics, even at that age. So I think we were lucky with the group that we got throughout that session. But I wouldn't sit there and say it was us blowing teams away with football at that age.
Yeah.
But they were very physical. And what I can say from my experience, especially in the girls' game, if you've got a physical girl or girls at under 8 or under 9 level, you're ahead already, because they're hard to find.
Brilliant. And that's good to hear and good to understand that dynamic. I'm going to open the floor up because I know the guys are desperate to ask questions and I can't hog the floor.
Yeah, Tom, just listening attentively, enjoying the story. What, just in terms of your daughter, obviously she is a standout amongst peers to be in the place that she's at now. What qualities does she have within her game that allow her to stand out?
So, funnily enough, it's her, and this will lead into her first season of football. She has had a growth spurt now, but she wasn't the biggest player. She wasn't the biggest player in our team, and so I took the 8s, and she was actually playing up a year, so she would have been an under 7, but playing under 8s. So back then, she wasn't the biggest player, and she had to rely on, even on that small pitch. She noticed she's not going to muscle people off the ball, or she's getting pushed off the ball. So automatically, it naturally made her look for space. Now, at that age group, I think even at the boys' age group to a certain level, they kind of swarm. They'll swarm the ball at a young age. They'll all go for the ball. So Lila she was in, trying to get the ball the first time. But you noticed weeks down the line when these groups were forming, she would kind of position herself just outside because she realized that the ball would trickle out. So she would see that people are just kicking at the ball and it's going to come out. It's going to come to me. I'm going to guess where it's going to be, and then I can get on the ball. I don't have to go in and start kicking. I can use this space and then get onto the ball. So her standout quality now is her game understanding and positional awareness. So she's very good. Her football IQ is high for her age. Physicality's rocketed up, but we can discuss that later on. She's very tricky. She's quite like that. She's a little bit not cocky, but she's confident. She's quite funny. She's just got that sort of character. So she takes that into her football. So she tries to be quite tricky on the ball. That's another one of her qualities. Her footwork's quite good. But for me and Mum, they say, and other coaches that work with her, really her standout would be her football IQ and game understanding is advanced, and that's really helped her. And that all started from playing up a year at the under 8s and not being that physical. So for me, that would be her standout attribute.
That's interesting because I know a number of kids that played up in their first season of football, and my boys only under 9s, so they haven't played loads of football. But you can tell the kids that have played a year up because they just have a stronger awareness of the game. Yeah. Not all of them. There's a boy who had Ralph there not too long ago, and he played a year up, and his IQ and his understanding is elite compared to others, and I think there's a lot to do with it. But question was, not all players know that, so you don't need to be. Sorry, let me ask a question. Is your daughter Q1 baby, and also is there a correlation with that game IQ to like her education in school, like her intellect?
So she's November, so she was born November. And honestly, this is another thing I look for in players myself, just mentioning education and academics and stuff. She flies at school. So academically, she's always meeting and exceeding in certain ones. She's very good with her maths. Obviously, PE, incredibly good. English. School, she's a star at school academically. And then I find that translates into her understanding of the game and how to process information she gets from coaches and myself, and to then, process that and put that into action. I think that's definitely an advantage that she has, and not all players that I've worked with are of that ilk. They don't. The schooling isn't always the best, but I do firmly believe that if you're going to really go far in football, I believe academics are up there as well. So I think there is a correlation there. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, because you know what? Obviously, it's in the name, ball at all costs, and at times the academic side can suffer because there's so much focus on the football, which is a shame because I think that there needs to be a balance and you can't neglect that side of things. But with your daughter, it sounds to me like she's football mad. She really loves her football. Is it a challenge for her to do other things away from football in terms of her work, or do you have quite a good balance between yourself and your missus and your kids where I say a good balance, you're probably out 6-7 days a week. So how do you manage that side of things?
It's a struggle. It is a struggle because the football does come first. Now, as good as she is academically, there are there are little bits she's missed. I mean, she's year 5, so they do get little bits of homework. But I remember she came back from school. This was a few weeks ago, and she'd missed a bit of homework. And the teacher actually pulled me up after, and they were like, she had to hand this in, but she was like, "Oh well, I was at Tottenham." I was like, "You can't say that." No, you can't say that. A few times she's like, "Oh, well, I was at Tottenham," like as if it's a get out card. Like she could just say that and kind of get away with doing homework. So it is a struggle. Although academically she's very good, we do struggle with that balance. And there are at times she's doing homework in the car, on the drive to school, or we do it is a little bit later at night. But I can see how school and homework could potentially fall behind because we're out. I think it's six nights a week, so it's tough. But we try and cram it in, and normally it could be in the car on the way to a training, or literally, like I said, on the way to school. But it is a hard balance.
Sorry, Tom. Sorry, OC. I've got to jump in there. Educators will be in our comments. They will be shouting and screaming. You let Tom Wright say football comes first. Your daughter, Lila, will be in year 6 next year. She'll be sitting her SATs, and they'll be saying, how is she going to get greater depth if football comes first? Do you want to quantify that in what you really mean there? Do you really mean that? Or is it taking precedent at the moment, but you're going to find the right balance?
Yeah, I think the balance between school and football will obviously get harder the older she gets. At the moment, we just about get away with it. But I'll have to get to that age group before I really see how difficult that balance will be. Because at this age, luckily, the homework isn't too full on, and it's a struggle to balance it now. But me, well, in particular, mum, my missus, she makes sure it gets done. But I think the balance will be more difficult when they get to that year 7 age.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, Tom, thank you. I've been here listening and writing notes and really just reflecting on all the things that you've been saying. The first question I really wanted to ask is, how often does your daughter train or play football in the week?
So she will train, I think it's 6 times a week. 2 of those are gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. 6 times a week.
6, yeah.
That's
yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. I guess the point. The reason why I asked that question, I'm thinking of the people who kind of watch the pod and are looking at their daughter and they're saying, okay, I think my daughter has something. There's something about, yes, you've noticed that there's a je ne sais quoi about your daughter, but also you've got to balance that with the amount of hours, and you're clearly putting in the hours, which is the point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
You said something that really kind of warmed my heart. You talked about the IQ of your daughter.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't think we've had many pods, dare I say it, gentlemen, where we've gone in depth and talk about and big up the IQ factor. For me, in the boys' game, there's a heavy reliance on physicality, a heavy reliance on athleticism, almost too much for me. My son sounds a lot like your daughter. I think his game is very much an IQ game. He gets out of trouble, not necessarily goes in for the 50-50s. And I think that's personally okay. But where do you sit within this kind of, as a coach, within this kind of football framework? Should, are you about the, your daughter aside, is it about the athletics, the physicality? Do you see a space for it? Or should we be putting more effort? Because the one thing that does drive me mad is kids that don't pass. Now, some people might think that that's not an issue. It drives me personally mad, but I'm happy to have a debate about it.
Yeah. So for me, through my journey, my coaching journey, I have noticed that football IQ is, I would put higher at this age group in particular as well, than physicality. So even starting at under 8s, we're at under 10s and under 11s now. My daughter's playing, she's at 10, but she's playing 11s. There's players I've seen at under 8s and under 9s that have been physical. So within that age group, playing a small format game, being physical and aggressive, they tend to win. So they would be what you would call, again, it's important that we remember at that format and that age, you'd probably look at them and think, oh, that's a high performer. But does that necessarily make them high potential? Probably not. Just because I would look at it more as like, well, you're big, you're strong. Anything other than getting the ball and running 10 yards successfully, then you're failing. That should be easy for you. And I've seen players dominate physically and aggressively at under 8s and 9s, and they're being left behind now by 10s and 11s because the ones that focused on their IQ and focused on creating those triangles, passing, moving, they're now just as strong as you. You're still dribbling up your own bottom and losing the ball. You're frustrating your teammates and the coaches, and you have relied so much on your size and strength that actually you haven't increased your technical or tactical, psychological or social. You're just trying to rely on your strength. So football IQ, game understanding, coachability, they're all up there for me because the physical side will come. Obviously, everyone has their ceiling, but it will come.
Thank you. And I'm grateful to you, and I'm sure, no doubt, there would have been people who just listened to that last bit of that segment and were slightly triggered or rattled and they know who they are. And again, it's not a direct challenge. It's just that it's a different perspective on football. There are some people who think it's got to be skills, and rely on the academy. And so I'm going to lean into the academy, but I know there's going to be more questions into this. Is there an argument that actually we should just do whatever you got to do to get your daughter into an academy and then allow the academy to take over and fix the cracks? There's a particular reason why I'm asking this question. I think for me personally, I would say there's a heavy reliance on academies to, I'm just going to sort out the ball work, the feet. They'll get to the academy. The academy will teach them the spatial awareness. They'll teach them how to pass. They'll increase their IQ. But the truth of the matter is that might happen, but it might not happen. Or maybe your child picks it up, or maybe your child doesn't pick it up. From your experience, from what you've seen so far, is that a wise thing to do?
So I always think that it's better to be in the system than out of it. It does then depend on where you go, from my experience. So luckily at Tottenham, the training I've seen, the girls, even from last year, is probably some of the best I've seen around. It was very intense. It's very team orientated. Spurs, even at their under 9 girls, they like to get them to play out from the back. So like you're learning those positions and that spatial awareness. So if you're looking for that, a pre-academy like Spurs would be ideal. But then on the flip side of that, I've got one of our players, they're at Chelsea, and were told sort of by their coach that they actually build the individual and not the team. So that's where they're probably focusing more around that aggression, that tech, that 1v1 dominance, stuff like that. So, I mean, I haven't seen their training. I can only go on what a parent had said. So they're sort of, they're going to build an individual. Whereas Tottenham seem to want to build a team, and they want that passing sort of free-flowing football. Again, I'm not saying that someone like Chelsea doesn't, but it seems their player profile and their coaching model was more to build on that individual. So you have to really research. You have to find out. Just because you're in an academy also doesn't mean you're going to get amazing training. Depends where you are, what coach you have, how long are they going to be there. You could have an amazing coach one year, another coach could come in, you're like, oh, it's not the same. But having said that, for me personally, I do believe it's probably better to get in the system earlier. So they can kind of mold you into that academy sort of system player, and the opportunities will come, won't they? As long as you're retained each season, they're going to come. So I think get in earlier, but just bear in mind that there are options dependent on where you live, and do your research. Even speak to some parents maybe that are there and get the inside scoop from them. Just be careful of where you're choosing, because like anywhere, it's going to be your next step for your kid's education in football. So you want it correct.
And I just have one more. Also, I see you, and I promise, and that would probably be me. Well, I'll probably have one or two or 10 other questions that I'll bundle together. But my last one is, as we're kind of leaning into the academy system, I guess the question I'm asking you, Tom, because you obviously you know your stuff, you come across very knowledgeable. In terms of what you've seen, in terms of how the academy's view of your daughter, view of other kids that you've seen around you, are they right?
In her ability and stuff?
Are they right in what they think your daughter can do, the sort of positions maybe they've put your daughter in? For example, I don't know. Maybe your daughter's a striker. They put her in defense for some reason. I don't know. Have you seen things like that where you think that doesn't quite make sense to me? But hey, well, I'm in an academy. What can I say? I'm gonna let it play out. Have you seen anything like that where you've just been like, that's what I'm asking, are they always right?
Yeah, no, I think one, because I am a coach, I sit there and I trust the process anyway. Two, I've been lucky enough that Lila's the sort of player that she'll play anywhere her coach asks her to play, and she'll play to a good level. So I'm happy with that. I've seen her play in defence. I've seen her play out wide. I've seen her play in the middle. I've seen her play up top. She'll do a stint in goal if she has to. She doesn't mind. Now, I think that again, from my coaching experience and talent ID experience, I think players at that age in particular should be playing in every position they can, as many minutes as they can, because they're getting so much education and knowledge around different 1v1 scenarios all across the pitch. Not every 1v1 you're in is going to be the same. So, if you're up top, your 1v1 is going to be different. If you're a centre back, it's going to be different. On the wing, it'll be different. So for me, I just see that as the more positions she plays, and as long as she's enjoying it, the more knowledge knowledge and experience she's soaking up. And then obviously the dad side of me, I think, well, if there are players that are shying away, fine, let Lila step in. She'll take that knowledge and she'll take that experience, and you're not going to have it. That's an added bonus, isn't it? She's getting all she can out of her academy experience, and I couldn't be any happier with that. They seem to really like her there, I think, because she does listen. She's very coachable, and then not only does she listen, she puts that into practice. So she's a bit of a coach's dream, to be fair, and that's why she's doing so well.
Andrew, you can come. I just wanted to pick up on something you said there, Tom.
Yeah.
The better in than out in terms of the system. So obviously your daughter's on a journey, and I'm sure she has friends, and you have friends that are also on that journey in terms of families. But you mentioned that you love grassroots football, and just the comment that you made about getting in an academy allows the system, but it's basically allows you to be molded into the academy system player.
Yeah.
Do you? Am I in the establishment? I don't know. I don't know if that's the right comment or not, but I like players that have their own uniqueness and identity and their own flair and their ability to come in and show themselves. Whereas I feel like perhaps academies are moulding players into what they want them to be. I don't know if on the circuit when you're out and you're seeing girls that are still playing grassroots, do you feel there's more of a freedom of expression in that environment where they might be able to progress quicker, or do you think 99 times out of 100 an academy kid is going to progress quicker than a grassroots kid?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and could be a very deep question as well. Yes, I've seen some amazingly creative players in grassroots as well as academy, and some that, I've seen some players that's it. And I think, geez, when I find out they're not even at an ETC or an academy, you're just like, wow, how? Like, I don't understand how you're not. So for me, what I mean by kind of getting in the system and being sort of molded into that academy assistant player, I always tell my players that if they want to play professional football, they have to master the basics to an elite level. So that's the sort of player I like. Someone who can bring the ball down, zip it, play, combine, move, have that engine, that fitness. If you get all that to an advanced level, you probably could play professional football sometime. And that doesn't mean I don't like the creativeness. But that's what I mean by, I think my advice as a dad and coach would be to get your daughter into an academy, because they can really polish that player and get them playing good football. And if you keep getting retained and you're up into academy level and you keep improving, you stand a chance of playing professional football someday. So that's what I mean about, being in the system and kind of molded into that academy sort of system sort of player.
Yeah, I get the logic. I think that there's some great coaches. You sound like a great coach yourself, but there are some great coaches in the grassroots space. But whilst there are some good coaches, that the likelihood is that the guys that are being paid, that are professionals, that's their job, that's what they live and do, the likelihood is that they're going to be able to coach to a higher level than the part-time volunteer dad, as it were. Not that I don't want to do them a disservice, because I think there's a lot of parents out there that do a great job in grassroots, but I'm understanding your logic. I'm not agreeing, but I understand your logic. So I just wanted to jump in with that question there, Tom.
Yeah.
Andrew, if you want to go, then it's all you.
Yeah, it's a conversation, OC. We can agree to disagree. We can agree. We can disagree. It's fine. It's a conversation. At the end of the day, it's all down to viewpoints. Sorry, Tom. I like to go back before I go forward, because these two always get out of pocket and always go ahead. They race ahead. And I have to steady the ship. No, I'm not joking. But you've mentioned that your daughter's at Spurs. She's an academy player now. But how did she become an academy player? And I know she's playing up still. So I'm assuming that was part of it, but maybe not, because she's still playing up. So she's got scouted at the age group she was playing at and not the younger age group. What happened?
So actually with Tottenham, it was, she first tried at Arsenal. So she was an under 8 and she got scouted playing for her boys team at under 8.
Okay, so she was playing for boys and a girls team.
She was since under 8. Yeah, she's been playing boys and girls since under 8. I remember that match clear as day. She was on fire. Like she was really good. And I hadn't noticed that a scout was there, and he'd just come up and said, "Oh, what's the team?" I said, "Oh, Leo Gaddiston," because he'd seen that I was her dad. And I saw him obviously in the Arsenal gear and stuff. And then, long after, we got an email saying, "Oh, can you come into the under 8s, for the under 9s, like the development trials. So we went along there. We were in the last 3 weeks. It was a 10-week thing. So it was against us a bit because we only got the last 3 weeks. I thought she did well. I thought, she could have got in, but she did not at that time. So, and then actually with Spurs, they do it in a way where it was actually like an application form. So you detail all of your player experience and player stats.
Yeah.
They have a look and they just choose who they want to invite in. So not everyone gets invited in. A bit of a different way. There aren't many girls' teams that have scouts. I've noticed that as well.
Right.
Arsenal, Chelsea, I think I've seen around. Tottenham don't. Watford don't. Places like that don't. But yeah, so it was a form. So I put in under 8, bear in mind, so it was girls, boys, football, the amount of goals she'd scored. The grassroots team we had won maybe 10 trophies over that season or whatever it might have been. So you just put everything in and build a profile, and then they kind of choose. She was selected. She went along, trialed, did really well there, although we were only allowed to kind of watch the last 5 minutes. And then, it's been there since. So, smashed her the first season. She was there as an under 9 last season. Currently there as an under 10.
Amazing. Sorry, you've just blown my mind with that, though, application form. I didn't realise that. But
crazy.
Sorry.
Yeah, the girls, when it comes to talent ID in girls football, even today, is different. I think Arsenal have scouts, like I said, and Chelsea, and that's it. The others are by chance or by word or by recommendation or by application. It's not like the boys' game. Yeah.
Wow. So many questions, but I'm going to go back one step, just so any parent trying to get their daughter into academy football can understand. We've had this before from parents of girls in football, and I was surprised you didn't say it earlier, but we just didn't get around to it. Your daughter was playing for a boys' team and obviously playing for your team. Yeah. Now, and I guess she was playing for the boys' team on a Sunday. Yeah. How did that come about? Was that always the plan, or did you stumble across that, or what happened?
So obviously, the more involved I got in girls' football, the more it becomes clear that I think if any girl is really going to push on and develop in football, they have to play boys' football. Have to. You can't just play girls' football. You can't. Yeah. You have to be playing in a boys' league, boys' team, boys' league, competing against boys. So I kind of realised that early on and just got her in. I found a team, Little Gaddesden, everywhere else was full. So they kind of said, come along. We went along and, we've been there ever since now.
She's still there?
Still there, yeah. But it's evolved. So she was in the boys' team on a Sunday for a couple of seasons. I then started an all-girls team at the club, and we play in the boys' league. Yeah, so she's now in that all-girls team.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we'll come on to that a bit more, I'm sure.
Yes.
So as a blueprint, you have categorically said, you've made some bold sweeping statements here. You've said in order for a girl to play in academy football, they need to play in a boys' team. And I'm not saying I disagree with that at all. The question I will ask you before I even move on is, do you think there'll be a time that changes?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Because it's obvious that boys, especially when they hit that puberty age, I think it will just become too much.
Sorry, Tom. I agree with that. Yeah. I meant more so, do you think there'll be a time the need for girls to play in a boys' league, for what that gives them, will change over time with the evolution of the girls' game? More so.
No, I think it'll always be a useful tool used in girls' football for them to progress, not just physically, but it's sort of agility as well. Boys they are naturally more agile, naturally a bit quicker, naturally stronger. I would think, my guess would be that, girls would and should still be playing in boys football in 10, 15, 20 years at that development age, for sure. Yeah. It does come down to, I mean, that's a whole separate sort of conversation piece, is that natural sort of genetics and stuff like that. But as someone who is incredibly passionate about his own daughter's football journey and girls football in particular, boys football is ridiculously important for the girls to learn, challenge and develop. And I can't see that changing.
So guys, before you speak, sorry, go on, Dej, I will just say two things. If you agree or disagree with Tom, please put in the comments. This is your opportunity, guys. That's a massive statement. And I'm not saying, Tom, I disagree with you. I'm just saying that's the first time we've had it outlaid or outlined on the pod like this, that category. And if you disagree, leave a comment. Also, about the education, if you agree or disagree with that, leave a comment. I'm going to go into the form. I know you had a question, Dej.
Yeah.
Stop me if you need to, but the form application to get your daughter into Spurs seems wild to me. What's stopping me for saying her name is Dejinho and saying she's scored 156 goals? Yeah, half of those with her left, half of those with her right. Actually, a third of those with her left, a third of those with her right, and a third of those with her head, right? And one of those was a bicey from the halfway line. What's stopping me from saying that on the form?
Nothing. There's nothing stopping you from saying that. But I would assume at their end, I know that their talent ID team and scouts and stuff like that, they have access to the back end of our league stats and stuff like that. So if I said Lila scored 100 goals in 10 games in the Hearts pink division under 8, they could check it. Is that happening? I don't know, obviously, because I don't work for Spurs. I don't do that process for them. But I do know they have access to find out that information that you put in the leagues. That's Hertfordshire. They probably have it for the Essex leagues. Anywhere, there's a back end to it. We can't see it. So if I went on goal scorers, it doesn't come up for parents or coaches or just on the website. But I know that staff working at clubs, so coaches and talent ID staff, will have like a login, and it'll give them access to all the FA stats, which we upload assists and goal scorers on the Matchday app. So at the end of the game, and I'm assuming it all goes onto their sort of database. So they could check. I think they'd check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll leave out the bicycle kick then.
Yeah. I just wanted to chime in, Tom, and two questions, and thank you again. I guess for me, do you sometimes, when you have a moment to just sit back, rest, have a deep breath, feel slightly disappointed that in 2025 there isn't a little bit more effort? We talk about the fact that, England has, they've won trophies and the game is growing. But when I'm hearing something as basic as we're not getting scouts over to see top talent in the grassroots, does that let you down? Because look, everything you're saying, for a parent that is on the ball, got their finger on the pulse, that's not a problem. Part of me does think that's quite a lot of effort to keep track of all that information. You'd have to be a heavily invested parent to be able to do that and do that well. Does that make sense? Why is that happening? Why is that all on you as the parent? Why aren't the club doing more? Do you sometimes think about that question?
100%. Yeah, I really, really do. I think that it's dependent on the club and the resources they want to spend and the money they want to put into the women's pathways. I think a lot of clubs are playing catch up. I know one of the teams in North London, they're very good with their pathway. They train a couple of times a week. Futsal is in their program. Scouts, you see them out and about. So they've really got their finger on the pulse when it comes to women's football, and then it shows in their first team. That's why they do what they do, and they're very good at it. I think it will catch up. I know, for example, I'd read recently and been told actually by a parent at the pathway, Tottenham's pathway, that they've recently bought a golf complex for their women's pathway and stuff like that. So they're going to be redoing that. specifically for the girls and women's pathway and first team and stuff. So you can see clubs like that are making the effort. I think overall there should be more effort made. The frustrating thing is there's probably keen and experienced coaches and talent ID people out there that would potentially come on board in a voluntary capacity to start with and help clubs, especially in the girls' game, just to get their experience. And you could trade off. If I was a club and I was getting some volunteer scouts in, I could, you give them a bit of kit, some training, see how that goes. Then maybe it could go into a paid role. But on that side of it certainly needs a lot more time and effort put into it across the game, I think. And I think it's slowly happening. But it could be a bit more, yeah.
No, fair. Because just hearing you is confirming my suspicions as well. Where I think it's slowly happening, but I'm happy to say I think it's almost a bit too slow.
Yeah,
2025, and, you're having to fill in the form. Do you know what I mean? Why hasn't someone who's heard about your daughter come down to see her 1 or 2 games? That is standard for the boys' game, and I think one of the things about having you on the pod is about even letting the clubs know, like, dare I say, it's probably not good enough. We need to be doing more of the women's game with how things are going. I'd like to see more. But my last question, legitly, is there too much emphasis on the boys' game? And I mean it in both parts. One, in terms of we're pushing more the boys' game than we are the girls' game. But also, when we talk about wanting the girls of what benefits they're going to get, part of me thinks when I started watching the girls' game a bit more in more detail, one of the things I noticed was the technical abilities, more time on the ball, more patience, and it's more of a patient game, less of the hurrah, aggressive, fling the ball into. I felt it was more of a technical game. And could we be missing out on a trick here where maybe the women's game can almost go a different direction to the men's? Or do you think the men's game, just because of the money involved and the dominance, unfortunately, is just going to creep in, and the women's game is going to be another byproduct of the men's game? And I don't mean it the way that that's come out, but I hope you understood the question, and those listening understood.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, Tom. Deji's views and thoughts are his own. Just saying. Sorry, Tom.
No, that's cool. I think with, like you said, Deji, the money involved in a boys' game is always going to be really, really pushed, isn't it? Really, really pushed. There's so much money involved for clubs. No wonder they got scouts out there that, if they're out there, and I don't know what they're being paid per hour, but whoever found, let's say, for example, recently, Max Dowman, look at that, didn't cost the club much, but I bet Arsenal can get a massive fee for him when they need it or when they want it. So of course they're gonna have scouts out left, right, and centre, and the money is there at the moment. So I think it's always going to be there in the forefront. But I think the girls' game is creeping up. I think the level is really good. Some of the girls I've seen at this sort of under 9, under 10, under 11 age group have been phenomenal. And there are now grassroots, let's say under 10s. There's grassroots girls that are levels above grassroots boys. Now, a certain level, they're better. Same age, but better. So the women's game is, and the girls' game is coming up and up, because it wouldn't have been like that years ago. There are just under 10 girls that are levels above under 10 boys. Again, this might be, if I was to give you kind of a gist of what I meant, say if I had Division 1 under 10 girls, they're probably getting around Division 4, Division 3 high end of boys. Division 1 boys are going to be very good, especially around in our Sunday league. They are good. But what I'm saying is there are now groups of under 10 grassroots girls that they are better than under 10 boys. And I don't think that was ever the case. For that to continue, and for the girls' game to continue to get better. We need the coaches. They're going to continue to give the fantastic coaching. We need scouts out there as well, finding opportunities for girls to get into pre-academies. I've got my level 2, but I'm not on the payroll of any club, and I think I've put 15, 16 girls forward for pre-academies, and I think all bar one got in. I don't get paid for that, but I've done someone's job.
15, 16 girls and nothing. I mean, that's shocking. I mean, that's brilliant from you, but when they talk about the trickle down, we're helping grassroots from the FA, and I'm not calling out the FA by any chance. I always used to wonder what that meant, because people like your good self that are bringing in the talent, aren't getting anything for it.
And it should be clubs getting more scouts out there. I think they need to get them out. The talent's out there, and some of the girls are, they're incredibly talented, but they're not being seen because there's no eyes out there. And then you can recommend, but whoever receives that recommendation, they might be like, oh, that coach or that parent, I'm not particularly interested. It's just better if pro clubs in the women's game at that age group were having scouts out there, seeing the girls for themselves and doing their reports and giving those opportunities. Whether that's down to time or money, I don't know, but it needs to be better.
Thank you. You know what? You just smashed all my questions out. That little segment there, I crossed out 3 or 4 questions. So, Tom, you did a splendid job. So the point that you made, it makes sense. Obviously, it's a capitalist society, and the money at the moment is in the boys, it's in the men's game. And I think those clubs that are a little bit more, a bit further ahead, they can see what's coming over the horizon. Arsenal, Chelsea, things of that nature. They're obviously there, but perhaps these clubs, the chairmen, the CEOs, they don't have. They don't want to allocate budget to that at the moment. So I think at this moment, I think they should, but I think at this moment in time, probably needs a few more people like yourself, Tom, that are willing. I'm not saying they're not around, but I'll come to my question in a minute. But there's girls out there that deserve opportunities. Like, they deserve opportunities. I think the other week, one of Deji's friends, we were able to link them up with Ballon d'Or Neil, who came on the other day, and that was just a by chance opportunity that came up. But it may well need people like yourself to put your hands up and try to find those opportunities for these girls, because they deserve it. And until it is very much mainstream and there's academy coaches out there, scouts out there, then we're going to need more Toms on the ground, I would say. So what question that I've got is, and you've touched on it already, but I know a few girls in under 11, 12, that sort of age range, where they're clearly talented, but a lot of the parents, they don't really know what to do to get their kids seen. What advice could you give to them, just in terms of trying to get their kids opportunities?
So for me, I would first off actively just research opportunities in the area, because again, talent ID and these opportunities, they're different. I think, definitely different in the girls' game than the boys. For example, there was a whole Instagram page dedicated to posting girls' football trials. So it's looking into opportunities like that. They would literally post who's having trials where. I think it's just talking to other parents who have their kids in football, and it's just trying to maybe to even ask them to see if they can ask if there's an opportunity. I'm a big believer in, if you don't ask, you don't get. I think parents almost need to kind of, especially in the girls' game, be their own kids' kind of talent ID scout. You can find, if you're on LinkedIn, you can find talent ID leads. you can find coaches, send them a message, a little bit of a player profile, send them a message, reach out to them. What is the worst that can happen? They either don't answer, or they're going to come back and say no, but we might have an opportunity this time. But it's almost like building your own network. Build your own network of scouts, other maybe influential parents, coaches. Stay in touch with them, talk to them regularly. Just find out opportunities that way. LinkedIn's a fantastic tool. I'm not saying for people to go and stalk all the talent ID leads out there and hammer them with messages, because as much as I'm an advocate for if you don't ask, don't get, if you ask too much and pester a scout or a coach, you're probably never going to hear from them. And it could probably hinder your opportunities. You have to have that balance, that communication balance, if you're going to do it yourself. But that's how I did it. I would reach out to coaches and reached out to talent ID leads just on the off chance and said, look, I've got these players, a little bit of a player profile. That's where I get to put my experience of using my level 2 coaching and talent ID. I make my own little sort of player profiles. They can have a look. They either say yes or no, don't they? And more often than not, they've asked them to come in. So I'm a big advocate for that, to kind of you sometimes have to make things happen yourself.
Yeah, that point's really key. I think it's something that we need to do in life. But you do have a lot of parents, and listen, everyone's it's their own type thing. But a lot of people are scared to put themselves out there.
Yeah.
And actually, like we're saying in the boys' game, my boy will go and play a tournament tomorrow. There'll be about 10, 15 scouts there. I don't need to do too much for him to be seen. But actually, there's a lot of girls out there that are super talented. And you just need to be a little bit more forward with it. So yeah, I like that piece of advice. Like I say, rinse a lot of my questions. What I'm gonna ask, I'm just gonna switch it back, and maybe Andrew will bring it back across. But just in terms of your daughter, sorry, do you have 2 daughters, or a boy and a girl?
Boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl. Okay, and how old's your son? Does he play sport?
7. So he did one season last season, which he enjoyed, but he's now he prefers boxing, and he's just doing a bit of dirt biking now as well. Okay. I think this is another thing from a parent who's got one who's really into football. He's always been dragged around to all the football from a young age. I think he started to resent football a little bit. But he played for a season last season, but opted to come out because he wanted to do some dirt biking on a weekend. And he does boxing 2 times a week, so he's enjoying that more than football.
Okay, yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world, is it? Because when you got 2, 3, 4 kids, they all want to be like a pro footballer. Then
it's hard.
You're putting your hair out type thing.
Yeah.
But what is that commitment and dedication like for you as a family, as well as Layla as well? What does that look like? What sacrifices do you need to make in order for that football to be front and center?
The commitment is huge. Like it is a big commitment. Getting her to sort of 6, 7 places a week is tough. Sometimes she's having pre-training dinner in the car or eating later. It's one of those, you're rushing around. For me, I was a PE teacher, but I've come out and I private tutor now purely so I can choose my hours around my kids' schedule at the minute. So I'm blessed to be able to be in a position to be able to do that. So I've actually scaled my hours down. So yeah, their evening, especially in particular their evening football, I'm there, I can get them there, I can get her back. I mean, that's a big commitment that not a lot of people are in a position where maybe they can do. And then there's the cost that's involved. with paying for a lot of football. I don't think parents get enough credit for the commitment they make, because it can be really alter your weekly routines. And without that, they wouldn't. That's a game changer. If a lot of my support went, I wasn't able to drive Lila here, there, or there, she could drop off. If she could only make training once or twice, she's then missing out. She's not got the load of football that she needs to be performing at that level. She has a drop off in her sort of ability or whatever. So it's huge. And I don't think enough people think about how big a part the parents play in their kids' sort of football and their development. It's crazy.
Yeah, we do need to shout at the parents, because
massively.
It's tough. People are ducking and diving, carrying their laptops here, there, and everywhere, and do you know what? It's tough, and I do quite a lot for my son, as everyone else does for their kids, and I'm sure the audience do for their kids as well. But it's a passion point of theirs, and it's something that they enjoy. So what I don't like, I've heard it, but I don't like telling your kid, "Oh, can you see what I'm doing? I need to leave work," or I don't like that, because they're young, and actually you don't necessarily need to burden them with that too much. I think there needs to be an appreciation, but I feel like at times you're hearing parents taking their kids to training, saying, "Oh, I left work early," or "I'm paying this," or "I'm doing X, Y, and Z stuff," and I just feel like we need to strip that back a little bit as parents, because I don't know what value that adds to the kids is what I would say on that.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think if you were taking that stance, like you said, kind of hammering them about them, it could actually kind of push them out of the game a little bit, because they're not going to want that confrontation or to hear that. They might be like, well, if I'm going here, they're going to moan about it. And then, it kind of can jeopardize it. So I don't think it does bring anything to the table if a parent does take that sort of stance with it. But I do agree that there needs to be an appreciation, that they are being, they understand the commitment that we put in. And for me personally, I believe Lila does, and that reflects through her progress and how much she engages in the sessions, and she's enjoying it. She loves it. She's openly said to me before, thank you so much for, for always taking me to football and stuff like that. She gets it at that age. And I've never sort of hammered her about how lucky she is to have that support, but she does appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't get that at my house. We'll let them off. Do you know what? That's been a point for me, really, because okay, I'm maybe on the other side of the fence in terms of getting your kid into the system as soon as possible. But like my kid, he has opportunities, he's had them, and they're still there. But I'm very much about trying to make it work holistically for the family. So if I need to take my boy to a session or to academy training 3 times a week, travel up and down every motorway on the weekend, as well as get him to 1 or 2 sessions in between, I'm not set up to do that. Like, listen, we earn decent money in my house, but we're not set up to do that. So, I mean, my wife works full time, I work full time, so I'm very much working towards something. Maybe I'm not a tutor, but similar to yourself, where you've got a little bit more autonomy with your time, because it just takes the load and the stress off the family. But listen, I'm not saying everyone can do that or everyone is going to do that. There's opportunities out there, but I think for me, I would really like to make it work from a family where there's a lot more comfort and a lot less pressure. So that's a good point that you brought out there, Tom, just about how you manage your sort of work-life balance, if you like. Listen, I was going to have 2, because let me just ask this last question, because you touched on it previously, and I feel like you're itching to give us the information that we want. But just in terms of the 4 corners, I think you may have heard this question before. What would be your percentage split across those 4 corners in terms of bit of focus and waiting within girls.
Yeah. That's a tough one, isn't it? I was actually thinking about that the other day before I knew I was coming on here. I was like, they ask that question all the time. So I was like trying to prep myself. Couldn't even do it in a few days. So for me, though, as you know, I think technical, tactical, maybe 30-30. And then we've got physical and psychological, maybe 20 each. Maybe 25 psychological, 15 physical. I don't think at this age physicality is everything. I think that, because again, I mean, I could go on about talent ID for forever, but if I'm looking at someone who I say is high potential, so who's going to go on into the future, into adult football and play to a high level, physicality isn't that big at under 8, under 9. Not really, because you're all going to catch up. You're going to catch up. So yeah, I would distribute the most around sort of technical, tactical, and psychological.
You did prepare. I can see. Yeah, that's an
tutor. What do you expect?
Sorry?
He's a tutor. What did you expect?
Yeah, of course. Do you know what? That high performer, high potential, there's one thing that I normally take away from pods that I just sort of highlight, and I like that. I've never heard anyone sort of articulate it in that way. And I think that's a really strong way of sort of putting it, because you'll get those. Do I call them flat track bullies? No, probably not, because they're little kids. But you just get those people that are dominating at this age. But which again probably speaks to my. Is it disenchantment? Is that the right word? Probably not. But I don't know. I need to perhaps.
I know what you mean. Definitely.
I just feel like a scout might come along. Listen, I've got no resentment to scouts, and I'm comfortable with my boy playing grassroots football. Like, I don't mind. But those kids that are just standout, physical, like, they will get picked up. But I feel like people with your type of thought process and lens, maybe in years to come, you might have a bit more success than others, just based on how you're sort of looking at it, and perhaps looking into the future, because it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. People will catch up at relevant ages, and you do need to have your technicals and your tacticals in the right place. So,
and I mean, for me, like I said earlier, I'm first-hand seeing it now. Those under 8s that would be classed as a high performer because they're bulldozing through a small 5-a-side pitch or punting it from the halfway line. You're not seeing so much of them now under 10 and under 11, where the format's bigger and there's more football to be played, because you've just relied on your strength for 2-3 seasons and you haven't developed your game understanding, your positional sense, your gas tank. Fitness is massive. Fitness wins football matches. As they say, even at that age, you can work on your fitness, or just kind of have that natural sort of engine. So I see it now. People, like I said, big and strong at under 8s, just because they're scoring 20, 30, 40, 50 goals in a small 5-a-side pitch. That's high performing. So they're performing well within the format and the game because they've got 50 goals. Are they high potential? We'll find out in a couple of years.
Bravo.
Those couple of years have come up. Not so much.
Bravo.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Tom, where have you been all my life? I actually believe, legitimately, I appreciate every guest that we've had on Ball at All Costs, because before we started the channel, it was more about, I know where I was and the journey, but how you've just framed that is exactly what's been driving me bonkers, what's been keeping me up at night, and you have to have those conversations with your child. Like I know that my son sounds very much similar to your daughter in the way he plays the game. I'm looking at Andrew's eyes for that kind of confirmation, that confirmation bias. But then I have to explain to my son that somebody who's taller, more physical has been signed, but can barely control a ball. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's the reality of it. But I always say to my son, football is not acting. You can be a rubbish actor and have a career. You can't be a rubbish footballer and have a top career. I don't think it's possible. And so eventually, it will balance out over time.
Yeah. It will. And I saw something from a coach which summed it up perfectly on Instagram the other day, actually. It was a video of him speaking to a group of his players. And what he said really resonated with me. And it is true. He said, you can be really, really good in possession. But if you're really, really not good out of possession, you're not going to become a footballer.
Yes.
Yeah, massive.
All about what you're doing out of possession. People overlook this. I say this to even my players now and parents. I say to them, out of possession is so important because when you get to adult football, you're playing 90 minutes. I said, my striker, I said, you could score a hat trick, assist 2, get player of the game. You've probably touched the ball for 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
What have you been doing for the other 87 minutes?
Yeah.
You have to understand out of possession and what you need to do out of possession, pulling people out, finding space. Everything about out of possession, you have to learn it and you have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be out of possession for a long time.
It's funny what you're saying there, Tom, in the sense that, and for what you're touching on, Deji, because we had a similar conversation on the episode that's currently out right now. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but Dwight Gale being an undersized player when he was younger and having a growth spurt later on, but I'm not sure he's not 6 foot now, but he made a fantastic career. But some of the stuff he mentioned was what you're saying now. The first thing he said, you touched on it, was your daughter plays in the pocket.
Yeah.
So as a smaller, undersized player, if you like, amongst the giants, play in the pockets. Learn to understand where those pockets are. Understand, your daughter sounds like she has it, the football IQ, where she can anticipate where that ball's going to come out to and then understand what she needs to do with it. But one of the biggest things he said is what you've just said. It's the out of possession stuff that is what the coaches will look at for a player who isn't the tallest and say, what do they do when they haven't got the ball?
Yeah.
Are they the first one to start the press? Do they continually press? Do they track back? Do they get stuck in? Do they know how to use their body? Even though they're not the biggest, do they know how to use their body? And he used the example of Bernardo Silva and how his work rate is relentless and what he does to protect the ball, and the likes of him and a few others. So what you're saying is bang on, is consistent. And I think parents need to get that message across to their children if they're in that position where they're not the biggest, because there is a place in the game for all players. I mean, we see it. If we're in Spain, it wouldn't be an issue. But we're in England in the Premier League. So this is where we are. I mean, you touched on so many things, like when you were giving OC the advice about how to get your child scouted. The only thing you didn't mention was getting ChatGPT to fill out the form for them. But I mean, we shouldn't be in that position, should we? Right. So I'm going to call it out. I'm going to do a Deji. I'm going to say Tottenham, West Ham, Watford, and the likes of. What are you doing? Tom is here. He's ready. He's willing. He's able. Give him the badge.
Bring him in.
Yeah, let's go.
Bring him in.
100%.
Let's go. That's us bigging you up, Tom, from what we've heard. And we wouldn't have done that if we didn't think that you were capable. Your track record speaks for itself. You've got 15 in the door. Listen, I can't believe, as Deji said, in 2025, we're reliant on forms. We're reliant on somebody being able to understand they need to follow all of these pages on Instagram or speak to scouts on LinkedIn in order to push the talent that's there. So I guess the question I have for you, one of the last questions I have for you is, we're clearly missing talent in the women's game. Do you think the same can happen in the women's game that it does for the men's game, where talent can come through later on? Or do you think because of the biological, physical changes in the girls' game and maybe distractions that talent could be lost forever?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think statistics are, let's say for grassroots, I think from 13, I think it's 50% of girls drop out of grassroots football for a variety of different reasons. You've then got to factor in what's different between the girls and the boys is girls will get to a certain age, obviously body changes. That's massive for a player. Genetics is huge in the boys and in particular in the girls game. So they've got that to kind of contend with as well. I do think, I'm hoping the retention rate will be higher in girls football now from 13, 14 and up, purely because I think a lot of girls would used to drop out because not many girls were playing. So they get to secondary school and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you play football? Like the other girls groups. I don't think that's going to be so much now. So I think we'll see higher retention rates.
Yeah.
So I think there will be more girls historically playing at that age. But then, yes, body confidence, body shape, stuff like that. There will still be that drop off, I think, in the girls' game, unfortunately. But I think there will be more, and the quality will be better. Obviously, the level of football will be better, and more players.
Good to hear. And that's positive. And you'll get a job after this as a talent ID scout. So that would increase the levels of girls being scouted before we have to consider them dropping out. I've got some other questions, some quick fire. We are running long. Can you tell us quickly what those 6 days a week look like? I mean, you mentioned 2 fitness days for your daughter. How many academy days and what are the other days as well?
Yeah, so Monday, she'll do the gym 4:30 to 5:30, and then she will go up to Watford for their PDC. I think it's 6 till 7. Tuesday, we're out the door by 4:30 to get over to Tottenham. So she'll do that from 6 till 7. Wednesdays, she'll do her school football. So she's playing up a year for year 6 school football team, girls. Thursday, she had been at a private academy training. So we were just over, where was it on a Thursday? She had a private academy session somewhere. Can't remember. I'll come back to that one.
Yeah.
Friday was just the gym. And then Saturday, she would play her girls' league football. So she's playing up a year for under 11, and then Sunday boys.
So it was 7 days.
7 days, yeah.
It was 7.
Yeah.
You lied to us.
6-7 days. It all blurs into one, mate.
Don't do the 6-7 on there. We don't do the 6-7 on there. No, we're not doing that. So I just did it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds a lot. It does sound a lot, but I guess she enjoys it, which is the main thing, and she's up for it, and she's thankful and grateful, as you touched on. Yeah. Brilliant. So your daughter went into the academy. You continued coaching. Yeah. You created a girls team at your daughter's boys team.
Yeah.
And you play in the boys league.
Yeah.
Is this where you got the 15 girls from that you've recommended, or you found them from the girls league? Where did they come from?
So some were from the club where I said I'd first started at. So I'd worked with them a number of years. Some, we got some good players after playing teams in tournaments. So we didn't tap them up. It was just they were looking to move anyway and had played against us and seen us and heard. So naturally they kind of asked and sort of come over, which was great. So yeah, it's been a mix of ones I've worked with in the past and then just word of mouth as well.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. And obviously you have a bit of reputation now. have you encountered any disillusioned parents saying my daughter is this?
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and chat about that all night. Not within the group I have now, no. And this is why I now work with. I go with quality over quantity anyway, but I almost recruit the parent as well as the player.
Yeah,
just through previous experience. My vision has to align with the parents, and the parents have to trust me to do my job and want me to coach, and they have to be supportive and act, appropriately on match days towards their own player and other players. But there have been, I've encountered some bonkers parents in grassroots football. Bananas.
And you're using nice words to actually describe.
I am. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
Blind?
Really, blind.
They must be blind.
Yeah. Toxic. We've had it all before in the past, and it's how we kind of ripped up and started again, rewrote what we wanted to do, and what we've got now is fantastic. But there are parents out there that can ruin that, not just for everyone else around them, but their own kid as well, which I don't even know if they realize that.
No, at the time, I don't think they do. At
the time, yeah, I don't think they do. But it's that old saying, isn't it? It's only adults that ruin kids' grassroots football. It's so true. And we have such an environment that we've created now that it would be very tough to come in. Yeah, you have to tick the parents box and you have to tick the player box. Yeah, I'm very protective of what we have through past experiences. Yeah, for sure.
No, I make you right there. That's very, very important. And I mean, the clubs look at that as well. So it makes sense that you need to create the right environment for the girls and for the families and for the team as a whole, and yourself and your sanity as well.
Yeah.
Because it's, like you say, parents ruin grassroots kids football. If there is a parent out there that doesn't have a Tom in their life, a Tom Wright in their life, and they're reaching out to scouts on LinkedIn, then what would you say is the number one criteria their child, their daughter should have before that parent confidently reaches out to a scout?
I think for it to stand out, because, imagine if they just email, I think, unfortunately, sort of saying things like, I believe that they have really good football IQ and they're so coachable just isn't enough. I think you have to lead with that they're competing and successful within boys football. Probably that'd catch my eye. If someone was to give me a snapshot profile, that you need to see that. So because that's the level people are going to look for in pre-academies. Are they playing with boys? Unfortunately, that's what they're going to look for. The whole coachability and player IQ, that can be seen when you get in there. But I am a firm believer of just reaching out with those some stats and some qualities in there, but maybe focus more around playing in the boys league. They're competing to a high level. Here are some stats. They might have played 10 games, 15 goals in the boys league, name the league and division so they can check it. There's no point just putting it in blind because it'll look made up. And then go from there. It's always good to mention, I think, as well, though. It depends how detailed you want to go into it, but you can, you could mention that not only are they good with their academics, they're also, that translates and they're incredibly coachable, but you need to lead with something that's going to stand out. And I think that's normally if there's, I've got a player, they're not at any pre-academy, they're competing and really shining in their boys league, you're going to want to have a look at them. I think I would. So something along those lines.
Fantastic answer, and I can't take credit for the fantastic question. That was one of Deji's, but he let me have it. So, Tom, that's brilliant. And guys, who needs GPT, who needs Copilot when you've got Ball at All Cost and Tom Wright? Like, there it is. Rewind. You weren't prepared to take those notes. Rewind. Take those notes. Let us know how you get on with your daughter's application. And if it doesn't work, blame Tom. If it works, we're all taking credit for the success. That's what we do on Ball at All Costs. No, Tom, listen, you've been very generous with your time.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having me.
Insights. You're welcome. Some fantastic insights and great questions from Deji and OC, as always. You've heard the show before, so you know our last question. And you're also a firm believer, if you don't ask, you don't get. So we're going to ask you the question. And before we do, you've got to help us with the answer. You know the drill. So you said you don't ask, you don't get. Can we get Tottenham's Academy girls lead on the show? What do you reckon?
No,
I'm not going to ask you.
No.
Who have you got for us?
He's quite difficult to get on.
No worries.
It's quite difficult to get hold of at the best of times. I could potentially get a talent ID lead at the other side of North London.
Okay, that works.
I could ask her. Yeah, I think she'd be up for it. So she heads up all the sort of talent ID and strategy for a certain region. I think it's sort of the Hearts, Beds, Essex, for the Red in North London on the girls' pathway. So
that would be brilliant.
I'll ask her. I'm pretty sure she'd be up for it.
Fantastic. We will hold you to that because you said you're a man of your words, and we're looking forward to world exclusive 2026. We will be having the Arsenal Academy Talent ID lead on the podcast in the not too distant future.
Delivered. Don't worry.
Done. Perfect. That's what I like. In the bag. Deji celebrating already.
Yeah.
Perfect. Guys, listen, it's been a fantastic pod. But before we go, you know the drill. Please, we know you are true to this. Please introduce somebody who is new to this. And if you've made it this far, you've heard some fantastic insights. Please leave us a like, a comment. Please subscribe and hit that notification. And if you listen on the audio feed, you know what to do. A review and a like would be brilliant. Happy New Year to all. Hope you enjoyed the festive season. Onward and upward in 2026. He's been Tom Wright. We've been Ball at All Costs, and we are out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.